Well, I mean, on our end, honestly, we went from subscription down to a ad-based model already, and right now it is about sustainability. How much interest can we continue in the game that we can still get that money to support the staff that we need to keep adding stuff in it. I mean, the good thing is it's still also a marketing extension of the network in general, so we're always wanting to add that same new content in there, and every new show that we get, we want to incorporate somehow. So there is that balance for us between, we know our fan base now, how much can we keep them interested and bring them back every time we do add stuff in. So.
Because in the end, as much as we love the industry, if we want to volunteer, we'll go work for the Red Cross. Yeah, we do all have to pay our mortgages. Yeah.
Typically, MMOs have always been a PC game. I mean, there's been a couple of people that have attempted things on the consoles, but it really hasn't worked out. What are your thoughts on that? Why hasn't that been a potential growth market? And looking at me?
Is that Jesse? Oh my God! All right. So you're talking about MMOs for the console. This is something that's been talked about a lot. DCUO will actually be the first MMO to release for the PS3. I hope you try it and let me know how it works. Right now it's testing out really well to the point that we're in internal beta at the moment, and I kind of prefer playing it with a console controller on the PC as opposed to my keyboard. I mean, it's that sort of game, and I think that a lot of strides have been made in that direction. I know that Turbine was working on a console-based MMO too, but I haven't heard much about it lately. Do you guys know more about console MMOs?
Last I heard, they dropped the plans for that. So, I mean, and Linda, of course, has not talked about EverQuest Online Adventures, which was for the PlayStation 2. I think one of the big problems you have with console games, you know, it seems to make sense, you know, because you have, you know, a lot of console players, you know, a limited platform. I think the two biggest stumbling blocks is one, patching. You know, an MMO lives or dies by its content. So trying to patch on, yeah, we have the hard drives, but you know, how big is the hard drive in your Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3 compared to your hard drive in your PC? You know, the amount of room you have to patch is a lot more limited. You can't just, you know, throw out another expansion every 6 months like you can. I think the other thing is connectivity. I know, like on the Xbox 360, you know, everything has to go through Xbox Live. Microsoft wants their cut. So, you know, instantly, you know, the deal you do with the devil in order to get a game on console, period, is you have to give, you know, you have to pay your tribute to the console manufacturer. That's the same thing on an MMO, and so instead of, you know, if you're charging $15, you know, Microsoft or Sony or whatnot, you know, will often want their cut of that. So that kind of makes it a little bit of a losing proposition. There's an established, you know, core of players, and even in some things like, you know, I'm sure like first-person shooters, that's really a PC genre. So, you know, trying to do a first-person shooter.
Yeah, I mean, a few games have tried to go there before. Conan originally was going to launch and have cross-console PC play. Champions Online originally was going to do that. I think there's exactly as we said, there's some technical issues with kind of burrowing out of the approved network from a networking standpoint, and then there's the legal and business issues around distributing content. And I mean, the PC is kind of Wild West, of course, and MMOs are even more Wild West, and console is more on the packaged goods side of things, and even just the certification process of going through the first party hardware providers is adds some overhead. It means you got really good quality at the end of it, but it adds time to the process, and those are a little different from the constant patching that MMOs go with. So it will definitely happen at some point, and it will most likely be the first party publisher developer, so Sony working on DC Online for PlayStation 3, or Microsoft perhaps working on something for the Xbox 360, just because we've got to solve some of those business and technical issues first.
And it's still hard.
Yeah.
One of the other things as well, speaking of patching, is that consoles have a very, very strict patching schedule. If it's not delivered by Friday at 10:01 a.m. or whatever it is, you're screwed till next month. Also, anyone who's familiar with MMOs knows when you put in a major game update, almost inevitably the next day, you have a hotfix. That doesn't happen on consoles and cannot happen on consoles. So, yeah, huge technical issue there.
No, and I'm not also, sorry.
Footsie's here.
No, also, I'm thinking about the other end of things, is that the consoles, the market-wise, it's like players are used to much shorter and there's a much broader amount of competition on there. And so the commitment level, especially for an MMO, you'd have to get an MMO player that is already on there and really ready to go. Because otherwise you've got 50 million games that they're already getting into. They're going to put in the next one in 5 minutes later. And so it seems also just a harder market in general for getting that longer interest in gameplay across them.
One of the common questions that we've had from DCUO players is, what is this subscription thing you speak of? Because they're really not used to that. So yeah, the good thing is there are a lot of PC players playing consoles now, so we remain hopeful and we shall see. We'll report back to you next year at this time. I think DCUO has a good chance of working, and although obviously I work for the company, I think it'll be a really interesting experiment. I think it'll be great.
Okay, we have time for this question and one more. So the first hand I see, actually it was him, so sorry guys. We're gonna have time for that and then we're done, but here we go.
Hi, there's been a bit about trying to get people to connect more with their friends and within the MMOs and Blizzard and stuff. Is losing your anonymity something that other companies are looking at, or is it something that's sort of watching and waiting?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that quite clearly.
Okay, I think are you addressing the real ID issue? Mm-hmm. So the online anonymity versus exposing people online. But that also kind of ties back to Facebook, because Facebook's tied to your quote-unquote real name, supposedly. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting issue. I mean, I make actual choices in games. In EQ2, everyone knows that I play a dwarf called Brasse. I don't release my gamer name on EQ1 or in Star Wars Galaxies, where I like to just play and be anonymous. And, what if, I'm an SOE employee, what if I go to some other gamer site and I'm providing constructive feedback? No, really, I don't like getting banned. But what if I'm providing a negative constructive feedback to one of these other game companies, and then all of a sudden they show up with the names, and it identifies me as Linda Carlson, and they go, oh my god, that's an SOE employee. That would be horrible. I'd have to stop playing other people's games altogether. So, yeah, let me tell you, when that first came up with World of Warcraft, everybody at SOE just stopped, and we sat in our chairs and we started reading, going, you gotta be kidding me. and alternatively, oh my god, I hope they don't put that in because I've been posting on their forums. So it's, because, yeah, you really have to be reasonable when you're dealing with other people's games, but as a player, you have just as much of a right to be passionate and upset as any other player that plays that game. So yeah, we don't want to be outed, really. I think that online anonymity is still very important for some of us, and also from the point of view of real-life harassment. We deal with that quite a lot in customer service across our various games. I would never want to be part of that problem. So I can tell you right now that SOE has zero plans for this real ID stuff, and we had a good time watching that all go down with poor old World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I think any developer that really loves games, kind of stopped and looked at it and went, really? Because I'm exactly the same way. I tend to use the name Cypher a lot of games, but sometimes I just want to be anonymous. I just want to kind of lie low. I don't want people to harass me. Even sometimes my own guild. Sometimes I just don't want to raid that night, but I still want to play. I'll log on. All of a sudden.
That's where you're on.
Sorry, but yeah. But basically, what you need to do though is you need to look at it from a business point of view. Follow the money. But people point this out. Speaking about Blizzard and Real ID specifically. People point out that Blizzard signed an agreement with Facebook earlier this year, and then all of a sudden they announced the Real ID thing. It's like, gee, how's that partnership working out for you? Since Facebook needs to use real names, and all of a sudden Blizzard comes out with Real ID, you can kind of put two and two together and say this is the kind of the first step towards Facebook integration. Some people want that. Hey, great for them. But I think the problem is when you start getting into requiring it and making it hard to opt out. Yeah, because I think a lot of the existing audience, obviously by the whole hubbub around Real ID, the existing audience wants anonymity for, in some ways. I'm not on Facebook. I'm on Facebook, but I ignore all friend requests. I just did it to play the games when they first came out. But I don't use social networks. I do it the old-fashioned way. If I like somebody, I'll give them my email address and we can chat that way. I don't want random people kind of going, oh, especially if you're semi-famous, somebody going, oh, I know you. I'm gonna add you as a friend. I'm gonna stalk you. It's like, great, thanks.